Hello, welcome to the Kratom Sobriety Podcast. This is Lauren, and today I have Rocky with us. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to finally meet you and connect.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you.
My name is Rocky. I've been struggling with Kratom since I think almost 10 years ago. Just that decision of Googling something could lead to a roller coaster of things, of decisions and consequences. I'm unbelievably grateful for where I am now, but this is a dangerous substance, and I really want to be an advocate for just awareness on what this where this can take people.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a common goal that we share, is just to get the message out, to let people know this is not a benign substance, that it does carry a lot of weight with it, and our lives can show that clearly. So thank you for coming on and sharing that with us. Do you have any hobbies or interests that you're involved in that you'd like to share?
Yeah, right now I have a amazing wife, supportive wife, who has been with me throughout this entire process. And her and I have an amazing son. He is 2 years old. So a lot of my time is spent with them two. But in terms of hobbies, I love rock climbing. I've come into rock climbing in sobriety. And I'm obsessed with it. It's like I do this alcoholically, or, I'm addicted to climbing. I love it so much. And my son loves it too. So it's very cute to share that with him. But really, climbing, family, and sobriety is basically, and work is my entire life right now.
Sounds like it's a really full life. So that's great. I know after addiction, a lot of us find something to throw ourselves into. And I became obsessed with running, and you're climbing. So, hey, it's good, healthy outdoor habits. So that's good. Okay. So you said 2016 was your first experience with Kratom. What is your Kratom quit date?
My Kratom quit, so it's Kratom / 7-OH. 7-OH really escalated a lot of things, and that is January 10th, 2025.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned Googling things. What was your first time coming up against Kratom or finding Kratom?
In college and in high school, I always dabbled with pain pills every so often, and it wasn't like a regular thing. And I remember it's very blurry, but in 2015, 2016, my then girlfriend, now wife, we were living together. We were smoking a lot of weed together. And for some reason, I just wanted something like an opiate. And I remember Googling alternatives to opiates. And that's when I came across Kratom, and I thought, this is the solution. And then I remember buying it. I think it was probably at a convenience store or smoke shop at the time. And I thought, wow, this is great. It gives me energy. I feel focused, all of those things. And I never took it in doses that it would knock me out, that I've heard from other people. But I definitely use it as a stimulant, those opiate feelings as well. And then within, I would say, 2016, within 2 years. And at this point, I've actually stopped drinking. So I think that's really, now talking about it, that's actually the progression. Is I stopped drinking because I couldn't drink responsibly. And my wife was, at the same time, my girlfriend at the time was like, you don't know how to drink right. You can't drink. And I saw where she was coming from on that. So I stopped drinking. I needed something, and then boom, I come across Kratom. And the progression of Kratom was pretty crazy, where I was using the dry leaf only for a little bit, for I think 2016, 17, 18. So 2.5 years. And then it got really expensive, and I started using extract shots. And that's when I found the extracts. I was like, oh, this is amazing. So then I'm using probably 3 or 4 bottles a day. And then that started getting too expensive. And at the time, I was managing a portfolio of gas stations and different businesses. And I don't even know what prompted it, but it was I realized when I stopped taking the Kratom, I was withdrawing. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but I was getting sick. And that led to taking pills. Now I'm buying pills. And then that led to, surprisingly, it's crazy to even talk about it, but that actually led me to snorting heroin for about 6 to 8 months in 2019.
Wow.
And that progression was so quick that after those 8 months, I went to treatment for the first time. It was that whole experience. It was terrible. It's exactly what you would imagine. It was blowing through all my money, lying, being emotionally abusive to my wife and her girlfriend at the time. So I went to treatment, and then it's very normal for this, but 2 weeks out of treatment, I relapsed, and then I went to live. At the time, I was living in the New York City area, and then after I relapsed, I went to live with my parents down in Florida. And that's where I went to treatment too. And I definitely ran away from all my responsibilities. I ran away from my wife. I ran away from any jobs that I could have had. And I was basically in Florida for a summer, and my parents just wanted me to not do heroin, and just any parent would. So they really just left me alone, and my dad gave me a credit card. I worked for my dad, like bullshit work. My dad is in construction. I'm like not a construction guy. And it was BS what I was doing. And I really took advantage of the situation where my parents didn't really know what Kratom was. They weren't like following up on me and stuff like that. So I fell right back into the Kratom thing. And then after those 2 months in Florida, my now wife told me, you got to come back or we're done. I didn't want that to happen. So I came back to New York City area, and I just jumped right into the rooms. And I was sober, I think, for about a year, a little bit over a year. And then I got into this pattern of slipping up on Kratom. And I would only slip up for a day or two at a time. And it was always, all of my slip ups and all of my relapses were Kratom related. And then I got a job. Everything was stable. Everything was moving right. And I hear it in the rooms a lot where active sobriety gives you all these things back into your life. And then you forget about how you got there in the first place. And that is doing the right things and living a program or working a program. And so I stopped very slowly, but quickly. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped talking to people, and I stopped working a program. And my wife and I got married. And now this is like fast forward, because the last 2024 and 2025 was just out of control for me. But we got married, and then I started slipping up more. And my wife owns a gas station, and she always had cash in the apartment. And I was working, not really working, but I was making a little money, but she was the primary breadwinner at the time. And she had this cash in the apartment, and I found the hiding spot, and I started taking a little bit every so often. And I was doing Kratom, and that's when I came across 7-OH. And I thought, oh, what is this new thing? Let me try this. I'll only do it for a little bit. I've given myself every excuse in the book. Oh, I'll pay it back. And that lasted for probably about a little under a year. And it's crazy what this substance can do. I would have never imagined in a million years that I would have stolen from my wife. And I was telling myself, I spent so much money that I was telling myself, oh, I can make $20,000. My wife won't know about it, and I'll just replenish what I've taken. Complete madness. Eventually, my wife finds out. And I bought a bunch of, I don't even know if it was 7-OH pills or if it was, I think it was the Kratom extracts. She's like, what the hell is going on? I tell her what's going on and she freaks out, and rightfully. And then it was probably like probably an 8-month journey of hell for her and myself of our child is born. I'm lying to her. I'm getting high while taking care of our kid. In my head, I'm telling myself that I need these things in order to play with him. I need these things in order to change his diapers. I need these things in order to do anything. And I'm skipping over things, and we can get back to it. For example, I lied to, and this time I started talking to a therapist because I thought to myself, or a psychiatrist, I was doctor shopping. And this was like before the 7-OH really got bad. And I thought, oh, why don't I get prescribed Adderall? That'll help me work more. That'll help me make more money, right? Great idea. And when I talked to the psychiatrist, I told her I am not in recovery. I have no history of substance abuse. So she gives me Adderall. I'm on Adderall for a little bit. My son is born. And then at that time, after my son was born, I started taking 7-OH. And then my wife finds out about the Adderall. I have a meeting with the psychiatrist to tell her, hey, I'm taking Kratom. I'm struggling with getting off. And I was just thinking to myself, let me get Suboxone for a week and then I'll be fine. And my psychiatrist straight up tells me, you need to go to detox. You need to go to treatment. This is not going to be easy. And then my wife chimes in and goes, treatment's not going to work, or detox is not going to work. Treatment's not going to work. And my psychiatrist goes, why is that? And then my wife chimes in and says, it didn't work the first time. And mind you, I've never told this lady anything. And I was I was so scared that I immediately just exited out of the group, like the Zoom chat. I immediately just and my wife is at me and she go, you never told her? And I'm like, no, I never told her. It was so chaotic and it was terrible, the things that I did. And from the time she knew I was taking 7-OH, and I think 7-OH is just like this other animal, because there was different times where I could stop taking Kratom. Sure, I would have, the withdrawals sucked, but I was able to stop it. But 7-OH is so insidious that I was in virtual IOP, and I just remember the last probably 6-7 months of me using was the most horrific point of my life, because I was doing anything and everything to just use. I was willing to close the door on everything, walk away from my family, walk away from everything as long as I can use. And it's terrifying to think about it, because the things that I've said to my wife are just unforgivable. My actions are unforgivable. And the things that I did around my son when he was an infant, it's just crazy. It's like all of these lies that we tell ourselves, like, oh, if I take this substance, I'm going to be more productive. Or if I take this substance, I can do this or I can do that. And I take for me, I take this substance and everything else goes out the window except for me taking more of that substance.
So that was a ton to unpack. Thank you for sharing that. It's a very similar story to a lot of us, but I know it's very personal to you. Absolutely. But I wanted to go back to, okay, you said back you were dating your now wife and you got clean from heroin and there was a time gap. Were you completely abstinent during that time, or were you playing with Kratom a little bit here and there after that stint?
It would be, when I came back from Florida, I was sober for about a year.
Okay.
And then I think I had a slip up. And I remember one time in that period, we went to the Dominican Republic with a ton of people, and somebody in early recovery, like right now, I wouldn't do that at all. There was a lot of substances in the DR where we were, and I played dumb and I hit a vape pen and I got high one night. But I was trying in recovery, but after that first year, I was never to that point again.
Okay.
That first year of recovery, I was in it. I was with, like, I had my guys that I would talk to. I had my network. I was consistently going to meetings, consistently working the steps. And then after that, it was just like in and out. Like I would slip up for a day, back in for 30 days, but I wouldn't tell anybody. And then I would slip up one time and I would tell everybody. And then it was just, I was not honest with anybody.
So as you were going through that, what were some of the lies that you told yourself to justify going back? Because I know a lot of people say we can believe anything in this denial trap of addiction. And so what were some of the lies that you told yourself?
I would tell myself only this one time. I am very compulsive, and I would usually do it out of anger towards something. Something would happen to me and I would be like, oh, screw this. I just need this one time and I'm not going to do it again. And then again turns into weeks or whatever it is.
And I think I've heard it said in the rooms, which when we're talking about the rooms, we're talking about a 12-step program. I've heard it said that we're using at someone, we're drinking at them. So it's like we're hurting ourselves, but we're doing it at them because we're upset. And I relate with that a lot. So also I wanted to ask, when you went to the Adderall, I know with me, I noticed this. Do you feel like taking Kratom kind of opened the door to want other substances, just want to get high on other things?
100%. And I think that experience, my wife asked me a couple months ago, like, do you ever want to go back to taking, like right now I have a high demanding job. And she's like, do you ever want to go back to taking Adderall, or do you ever have these thoughts? And I told her that experience taught me that nothing is going to work. Nothing for me is going to quiet my head or solve my problems. No substance is going to solve my problems. And that's exactly what happened. I started taking Adderall and my brain said more. And my brain turns into a chemist where it's like, hey, you're really up. You need to come down. And I'm like, oh, what a great idea. Then it's crazy what I'll tell myself, the BS I'll tell myself.
Yeah, I know. I would say things like it made me a better mom, or I just have this one meeting to go to. I'll take it for that because it makes me talk better, or all those things that we tell ourselves. So as the progression happened and you were taking the extracts, how did you come across 7-OH? What happened with that transfer?
I don't know if it was on Reddit. I think it may have been on Reddit where I saw, because I've been on the Quitting Kratom Reddit for years. And I think somewhere there I saw, which is crazy. It was like somebody was like, oh, Kratom is easy to get off of compared to 7-OH. And in my head, like a normal person would say, wow, that's dangerous. I'm not going to touch it. In my head, I was like, oh, what's that? I want to try that. And of course, in my head, it's, oh, I want to try that one time. I just want it one time, and then I don't need it anymore. But 7-OH, I definitely lost myself in Kratom, 100%. But 7-OH turned me into a monster. It turned me into someone that I never want to be. When I really think about it, I get terrified of that person. It's scary.
It is. It is scary to think about the lengths that we will go to get that fix. And it wasn't even to get high towards the end. It was just to quiet that obsession to go get it. It would not stop until almost go into autopilot. I don't know if you ever felt that way, but just boom, I'm going to go get it and think about this later. And that was the scary part. So what did some of your quits look like throughout the time of you starting to maybe to when you started 7-OH?
I really feel like once I started 7-OH, I didn't try to quit until my wife found out. So then I tried to take Kratom to get off of it. That didn't work. I did a a IOP that it was great, but I just wasn't ready for it. I went somewhere in the mornings for 4 or 5 hours. It's a pretty cool program. They put you under intense physical stress where you do a crazy workout for 2 hours and then you do meetings after that. And I would get home and I would be just so physically exhausted. But then, of course, a week or two of that, and I slipped up after that. And then the big debate in my household was at this time, my son started crawling around, and I kept on telling my wife, because I knew it would be easier to get off of it with using Suboxone, of course. But my wife didn't want Suboxone in the house, of course. We have an infant that's dangerous, all of those things, which I totally understand. But then I told myself, like, oh, I need this. Like, I need Suboxone. And then I feel like once I put that in my head, like nothing I did worked. And so I have tried Suboxone a million times and it didn't work. It just made me stop doing 7-OH for a week. And then after that week, I had such a fear of withdrawing that I didn't want to do anything. It was just such chaos where eventually I got kicked out of this, and of course I'm thinking at the time, I'm not the problem. Now looking back at it, I'm terribly embarrassed about the whole situation, and I'm like, I am insane, like the way I acted. And then I eventually did a virtual IOP. I was getting high during that. That was even worse because I'm like, oh, I just need to sit in front of a computer for a little bit. And at this time, I was maxing out my personal credit cards. My wife wasn't letting me home. She would kick me out for half the day. And we live in an apartment building and there's amenity spaces in this apartment building. And I would sleep in the amenity spaces. I would sleep in the lounge of our building. And I was completely broke, didn't have a job, and sleeping in the amenity spaces of this building. And what's wild is I thought to myself, this is okay. I can do this for a little bit. And I eventually shared in virtual IOP that I just lost my last client for work. I am kicked out of the house. I feel like the universe is telling me to go to treatment, but I don't have the money for it. And that message went from the person was in Colorado. That person told somebody in Maine about what I said. And that person in Maine called somebody in New Jersey. And that person in New Jersey calls me and goes, hey, we have a bed for you.
Wow.
And what's wild and what's insane, this was like in December, talk about a Christmas gift. I was like in the middle of December and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm good. I don't need that.
Oh, no.
And I went through the holidays at my in-laws, and then we tell my in-laws everything. And my in-laws absolutely so supportive. My father-in-law, who I worked for years, and they've known the entire thing. When I'm using it, I really become a different person. And I think they know that and they see that. They're very supportive. And my father-in-law was like, you don't need anything. And at this point, I got a 30-day supply of Suboxone. And my father-in-law said, you don't need the Suboxone. Just throw it all out, stay in the house, and you can do it. You're strong enough. So I throw it out. And of course, I completely lose my mind. And what's crazy is that, and this is like a full circle moment for me, you take the Kratom away, you take the Suboxone away, you take all substances and everything away. Everyone left the house one day and I drank alcohol. I got drunk. I don't even know if I got drunk, but I drank alcohol. And that now, about a year and a half, or a little over a year and a half sober, I think, holy shit, am I just an alcoholic? What the fuck? It's wild. You take all the substances away, I'm going to drink, especially if I'm not living a program. So eventually we get back from the holidays and my wife, I'm doing this whole juggle of sleeping in the amenity spaces, going to this virtual IOP, And then my wife comes down. It was January 9th, 2025. She came down and she said, if you don't go there tomorrow, then we're done. And I'm going to trespass you. I don't know if she actually said this, but she's like, we're done. You're lost. You don't want to get help. And I always wanted to get help, but I was so scared of stopping that I was, and even the morning of, it's crazy. I called the place. They were like, we're going to pick you up tomorrow. And I'm like, great. And then of course, immediately, I feel like a weight's been taken off my shoulders. And then I wake up the next day and in my head, it's like, oh, you need to pick up. This is your last chance. You need to pick up. So I tell my wife, oh, I need to get a toothbrush and toothpaste. The most bullshit things. My wife's like, you have everything. I'm like, I just need to go. My wife is like, if you are going to pick up, just tell me. So just tell me. And I would just lie to her face. And she knew I was lying. I'm just going to go to the store and get the things that I need for treatment. And then, of course, I picked up. And the line that I would tell her was it was crazy. It was just madness. And then I went to treatment and that experience was great.
So when you went to treatment, did they do a detox first when you went in?
They did, but not, I'm trying to think, did they do a Suboxone detox? So no, not at first, but they gave me, and at this point, I was taking low doses of everything. And I was also taking Suboxone. I was taking a little Suboxone, and they were giving me all the other like meds, like comfort meds, but I wasn't taking Suboxone yet or Subutex yet. So I didn't do a Subutex detox there, but they were giving me comfort meds and I welcomed all of it for a little bit.
How long did it take for the physical symptoms to subside once you got into the treatment?
I feel like I was in such like mental anguish that once I was in an environment that wasn't the current environment that I was in, I remember, I would say 7 days of just being very uncomfortable. And like the restless legs, then the lack of sleep, but I was also taking something for sleep. They were giving me, I think, trazodone for sleep. And looking back at it, they didn't give me any, in the beginning, they didn't give me any Subutex.
Okay. Some of us get that comfort meds thing. I also like to ask, when you called the rehab, did they know what Kratom or 7-OH was?
They knew what Kratom was, but they didn't know what 7-OH was.
Okay.
And
so did you have to explain it?
I did have to explain it. So they got an idea of it. And after I brought it up, the place was amazing. It was called Pinelands Recovery. I would recommend everybody to them. It was like, I remember the one doctor doing research about it. They're like, hey, I've never heard of it, but let me do some research and we'll figure out a plan for you. Even the first day at treatment, they pull you aside and every employee from the treatment center is in a room with you and they all introduce themselves and they say, hey, we're here for you. You're not alone.
Wow.
And I immediately felt comfortable. I felt at home and I just immediately was like, this is what I need to do. And from then all the way to today, I have just been living my life off of taking suggestions. Just somebody that I trust that's been sober, that's living the right life. You tell me what to do and I'll do it. And my son was 9 months at the time. And I made decisions that I probably should have made years ago after the first time I went to treatment, like going to sober living. I recommend that, at least just from my own experience. That was extremely helpful, just living in a house full of other men trying to get sober, living a sober life, learning how to live a sober life. I've been with my wife for over 13 years. I've never lived on my own. And actually, I in the back of my head, when I was leaving treatment, I knew this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. I need to live a sober life. I tried everything. I tried the psych meds. I tried everything. And I remember being on my way home. I opened up my phone for the first time and I thought to myself, I have to have $600 left in credit card space, right? Open up my phone and open up my credit card app, and everything is locked because I missed one payment. And my credit card company was great, but if you miss one payment, they lock you out.
Wow.
So I'm going to sober living. I don't have any money. And I remember it was the winter. I'm sitting on a bench outside of this house. I find out that I'm sleeping in a room full of 4 guys in a cold basement. Mind you, at the time I was living in a beautiful apartment, floor to ceiling windows, overlooking Manhattan. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I call my wife. Mind you, my wife is by herself at home with an infant, single household income. She's in the thick of it, right? And I'm just begging her, can you please send me money or please let me come home? I'm going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. My wife goes, you got to figure this out. Click. And she heard me out for a little bit, but ultimately she hung up. And I remember just crying on this bench, like, how did I get here? And that was probably the best thing she could have done for me. And I know because at the time, my wife and I were very codependent on each other. I know that was very hard for her to do as well. But the experience of me living in sober living and her living alone with the baby was very good for both of us separately. It was very hard and scary, and it was tough.
Yeah. I think it's amazing the human connection and what that can do for us. When you said that the group came in the rehab and met with you and that sense of comfort that came from that, I continue to tell people when I talk to them, reach out, find someone, find a group, find a support in person if possible, because it makes the difference. At least in my story, sounds like in your story, the people make the difference. And then also not just being surrounded by other addicts or people that want to help, but your wife, that was a huge step for her. And I think sometimes the people closest to us, they have to just put that boundary down. And as hard as it is, that helped change me too. I knew that my husband was not going to live with this. And so you have to come to that point where you realize you're sitting there, you're getting ready to go in sober living. You did not imagine that for your life at that time, I'm sure. And just the reality of that is it takes a lot of strength to go through something like that. What was like the first 30 days like when you were in the rehab and you had gone through the physical symptoms? What was that like for you?
A lot of guilt. I actually avoided my wife for the first 2 weeks. I couldn't talk to her because it's like the fog has lifted and I'm like, what the hell have I been doing? This is crazy. And then I did all of this again. Here I am again. I'm in a treatment center. What the hell? And of course, when I talk to a doctor, it's like these things start to come back and I'm like, doctor, I think I have EDA. And what I loved so much about Pinelands was this doctor was just so honest and cool about it. At first he said, hey, get all this stuff out of your system. Then we can talk about anything else. And after I met him again, he goes, you don't have ADHD. You just have low confidence. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, he's right. I just have low confidence. And I thought that taking a substance would help that. And it was hard. I think being in just a different environment, it seemed like a break. It was just a huge break. And I really took advantage of everything that they had to offer. And being a young parent, even though I was on 7OH and I wasn't there, I did a lot of things at home and taking care of the baby during that time too. My wife still needed my help. My wife would tell me, hey, I need a couple hours or I need this, I need that. Are you high? And I would, of course, lie and say, no, I'm not. And then I would help her out. But it was a much needed break and I really needed to be just removed. But it was hard in that I didn't know I was shocked of reflecting over what I've done was probably the hardest thing, is just the reflecting of my actions and thinking at the time. And I think it's very common that to think there's no way in hell that I'm coming out of this.
Yeah.
Like, there is no way in hell that this is going to work. I might stay sober, but I'm not going to be able to financially come out of this. My wife is not going to be able to trust me again. And that is something that we're still working on today. Literally today, something happened with payroll for the company. Employee texted me. I got up. I'm on my phone. Or I got up. I went into my closet for a towel. I'm on my phone. And I'm on my phone in the closet. And then I bring my stuff to the bathroom. And my wife comes out and she goes, "Why were you in the closet for so long?" Her trauma is still there, heavy. And at the time, I was stressed out. I was tired, all of these things, and I didn't handle myself as great as I should have. I was just like, it's been a year and a half. Come on. I'm super stressed out. And also, something that I didn't add was that when I was at treatment, they brought up Sublocade in treatment. And I know that's very controversial and all of that stuff, but the way I looked at it was that I've been dealing with opiates for most of my adult life, and that I'm going to do the Sublocade shot, that I should do the Sublocade shot and see what happens. I did one Sublocade shot after treatment, and then in May, I actually got another Sublocade shot because a doctor told me that because I took a blood test and I had it still in my system, that I could take another one. I have gone online. I guess that's a little controversial, that I shouldn't have done that. And right now, what is that, 2 months after, I'm debating on taking another one. And the way I look at it is that it's like an insurance policy. And it also, I don't feel anything when I'm on it. This time around, it made me gain some weight, craving carbs and sugar, but my wife and I are also trying to have another baby, so that affected all of that stuff.
So you said you got the Sublocade shot and then you went a little bit between it. So I thought that was a monthly thing. So you didn't have any withdrawals coming off of it?
I don't remember. I remember having hot flashes at month. I was in sober living, so that's month 2. I was having some hot flashes. Now, this time around, I'm not having hot flashes at month 2. I don't know what that could be or what. I have no idea. But I did not have anything close to withdrawal symptoms at all.
Wow. And you do say that's controversial, and it is, but there are people listening that might feel like there's no hope. The withdrawal is too much. The mental obsession is too much. And that's why this podcast is so great, because we present lots of different ways that worked for us. So I think that it's great if it worked for you and it helped, and it is that insurance policy. And it may even help your wife. I don't know, just to know you have that and it's blocking that desire is what I heard. I don't know.
For me, in May, let me backtrack. I went to sober living. I started just taking all the suggestions that were given to me. And then after that, in sober living, I got a job close to home, and it was a perfect early sobriety job. And I started doing that. And between the commuting from sober living to work and then visiting home, it just became way too much. And then my wife and I decided after, I think it was 3 months or 2 months of sober living, that, hey, or 3 months, my son was about to turn 1. Let's go home. Let me be home before my son's 1-year birthday.
Okay.
And then for the past year, I've been just going to meetings, being focused on my wife and my son, and being focused on work. And then it's crazy because you hear these things in meetings all the time where, like, if you just do the next right thing. And I've always been someone that is super, super focused on money to the point where it gets me into trouble, doing the wrong things, all that stuff. And for the past year, I've been just doing this job, staying focused, not trying to do anything else, learning a lot of things. And then in January, or from this past October to January, I was looking for a new job. And then in January, a headhunter reached out to me and I got this job that I currently have. And it is just the biggest blessing in the world. I work for great people. I have a much, much higher position, the best position I've ever had in my life. And now I'm more stressed than ever, though. I have more responsibility than ever. I have so many things, but I am helping low-income New Yorkers trying to find housing. That's what we do. We provide affordable housing for people in New York City, and I love being a part of that. But it's very stressful. It's a lot of things happened. And in May, it's not that even I was having desires to use. I was having desires to escape, just to pause or I was just looking for anything to escape the way I'm feeling. It's really because I know what that leads to. And I'll be honest, I did not tell my wife about it at all. I kept that from her. Of course, my head is telling myself she's going to talk you out of it. And she probably would have, but I should have told her. 100%. I should have. And when this time around, like I told her yesterday, like, hey, I'm having some serious thoughts. I'm really thinking about doing this again to help us out, or not to help us out, to help me out. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do it again because of the whole pregnancy thing and stuff like that, trying to get her pregnant.
Yeah.
It's tough decisions.
It is. And I think what you said about taking suggestions is important. Use the tools that you're given in the rooms of recovery in your support group to lean on them. I know it's hard to even bring that up sometimes in recovery because not everybody agrees with it, but maybe you can find somebody that is willing to hear that argument for you. But I just want to sit on something really quick that you have said. So before you were talking about money and issues with your wife and problems and having to sleep in the lounge room or whatever you called it out there. And now you're telling me that you have this job that you absolutely love. You and your wife are getting ready to try for another baby. And even though you might have struggles, you have the tools and you know what the next right thing would be. And I just think the transformation from beginning to where you're at now is just a testament to how cool recovery is. It's just a really amazing gift that we have in recovery to be who we are today and go through what we've been through.
Yeah, it's wild. The things that I experience with my 2-year-old, he's talking a lot now. Just earlier in the summer, we went down to the Jersey Shore. We go to a beach. And before, if I even went to the beach with them, I would have sat on the beach and just thought to myself, when can I pick up next? Did I bring enough with me? My mind would just be so consumed with it. And then we go to the beach, we're relaxing, and then my son finds a seashell in the sand, something as simple as a seashell. And then him and I walked around the beach and we kept on collecting seashells, and just seeing him look at each new seashell like it was a new treasure, just seeing that excitement and the simplicity of it was just being present in that moment. There's nothing that beats it. There's really nothing that beats it. And it's really the small things. And I'll never forget, there was one vacation that my wife and I took to Miami. And it was right after COVID. I was like very sober, meaning huge program, or great program, great network, all of those things. Even when we're in Miami, I'm going to meetings, coming back, right? Everything is great, really smooth. And I'll never forget, I was sitting on a couch looking out in the ocean, and I felt what I now know as serenity, just peace within myself. And I strive for that, or I try to strive for that. But I know that even before I would strive for that, but to strive for that all the time is unrealistic, Life is not supposed to be. Life is not happy 24/7. Life is serenity all 24/7. That's not life. But I wake up with my son, and he's your stereotypical 2-year-old boy. We wake up, it's chaotic. It is chaotic. I leave the apartment, even taking a shower. He's opening up the shower, saying something. He's throwing things into the shower. It's chaotic. But it's the small moments of actually last night. I didn't tell my wife this, so if she listens to this, she'll hear that from here. I've been telling my son stories about Mama Bear, just making up. Mama Bear, my son's name is Rumi. Mama Bear and Rumi go to the beach and just crazy stories. And then we're talking about Mama Bear, or he wants to know how bears fish. I showed him a video of a bear catching salmon and we don't do screen time with my son, so it's a little controversial, but I was like, I'm going to show him this. It's going to blow his mind. And it blew his mind. And even though I had a chaotic, stressful day, that 1 minute of watching this little boy watch a bear catch a salmon in its mouth was the most precious, beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life. And it's those moments that I really hold on to. And my wife is mad at me right now because a part of the Sublocade shot was about me going to counseling, but the counseling is just a check-in call. And at one point I told her it's under 10 minutes, it's 5 seconds. And she's like, you're changing your story. So it's not even like I'm changing I have to remind myself every day that my wife is still traumatized. Even though it's been over a year and a half, she's still traumatized. She's still scared. We have this child that we're both responsible for, and she's still traumatized. And
it takes time. I deal with the same thing. I'm 18 months along, and my husband will say, your eyes look different, or what you were gone for a while, or why'd you stop at the gas station, or that's just inside of them, the trauma. And it's hard to be patient because I know up in my head that those thoughts aren't there. I'm not thinking that, but they don't know that. So we have to be patient. I'm sure other people, they come across that too, I'm sure, because it's just takes a while to move past those things. Is there anything that you didn't get to talk about, or something that you would like to share with the listeners, that like an encouraging word or anything before we close up?
I think like this podcast was really helpful. I was listening to this podcast before I went to treatment, and I am on Reddit, not all the time, but I'm on quitting 708, quitting Kratom Reddit. That started everything, right? I really got in my head over a lot of the things that I read on Reddit, and that made me not stop at times, because I'm like, oh, this person experienced X. I don't want to stop it. I don't want to do these things, or whatever it may be. Just from my experience, there is a world out there outside of Kratom and 708 that a sober life is not a boring life.
Yeah.
A sober life is simple, but it's not easy. And a lot of meetings, oh, it's such a simple program. It is a simple program, but it's not easy. And I have to remind myself that every day, because I've experienced this before, where I get everything. I get these crazy opportunities and my life gets back, and then I stop going to meetings. And because my schedule is all over the place, I've gone through several sponsors and I'm still friends with these guys. I've known these guys for years. And my last sponsor, I met with him and he said, hey, I've known you for 10 years. Not 10 years. I've known you for over 5 years. And he said, you need to go to 4 meetings a week. You need to hit this as hard as you can. And the last 2 weeks, I haven't hit 4 meetings a week, but I try to hit 4 meetings a week, really try. And that's hard on me. It's hard on my wife. But the life that I have now, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And it's hard because it's what I have changed the past. There's so many things I would have changed in the past, but I wouldn't change my life right now. So it's hard. I had to do all those things to get where I am now. And I just remember using Kratom and 7-OH and being so alone and having all of these secrets and feeling like no one knew how I was feeling and that I was the only person feeling this way. And I just want to stress to everybody that's listening that there is a world outside, and it is the greatest thing to experience life sober and not dependent on these substances. These substances will tear your life and burn it down.
Yep, I 100% agree with you. Thank you so much, Rocky. I appreciate you sharing with us and the vulnerability and the realness. I so appreciate that. And I think our listeners will hear that. So thank you and good luck on your Kratom-free journey. And I appreciate it. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you very much. I love the podcast, and you guys keep doing what you're doing. It's great.
All right. Thanks, Rocky. Bye-bye.